I have a quirky question for you today. Is there any chance that you're a control freak in your business? I know lots of people are a bit of a control freak, slightly obsessed with keeping in touch with everything, with definitely not giving anybody else ownership or responsibility because you know how you like things done. You're an absolute stickler for standards and things being done perfectly. So you just tend to hang on a little bit too tightly to everything. Now, a bit of control freakism can actually be a very good thing. The fact that you are in touch with the detail and you really care about standards and you're obsessive about delivering brilliant stuff to your customer, that's all really good. When it becomes a problem, though, is when you develop a bit of a refusal to allow anybody else to take responsibility for anything. Because what happens at that stage is you refuse to allow anybody else to help you and you become the blockage in your business. You cannot grow your business if you are the person that is responsible for every single detail in it. You have to reach a stage where you allow other people to take responsibility to help, to support you, to push certain things in the business. There will be other people who know more about certain areas of the business than you, and giving those people the trust and the opportunity to support you is a brilliant way to grow your business. But at the same time, I know that giving away some of that control can feel incredibly uncomfortable. It feels like you are building in risk to the business, that you are allowing standards to potentially slip, that you are opening the door to mistakes for customers and all sorts of different things. So it's easy to stay in control freak mode, but you will inevitably hold yourself back. So the key to evolving, shall we say, the control freak nature is to learn the art of delegation. Now, delegation is one of those things which it seems really straightforward. It's only one little word. Well, it's a longish word, but there you go. It's a medium-sized word. It's not that complicated, is it? But actually, the truth of it is that delegating well is really quite complex, and that is why so often people are uncomfortable with it. In many cases, you're uncomfortable with delegating because you've done it in the past and it didn't go very well. You've tried it and somebody else turned out to be a disappointment, or they just didn't have the same standards as you. But actually, what that probably means is you missed a step in the road to delegation. So let's take a really simple example. Let's imagine that you hire somebody, whether that's internal or external, who's going to do something like writing a blog for you. The best way to go about doing this, if you are a control freak, in the perfect scenario, hire somebody who's brilliant at what they do, do some decent due diligence so you're really satisfied, have a really good juicy conversation so they absolutely understand what you need, and then you can get cracking. If you're a bit of a control freak, then you need to go through some really more careful, gradual steps. So what you could do to start with is simply ask somebody to do some research. So you might say, I've got 3 blog ideas in mind. I can count to 3. 3 blog ideas in mind. Could you go away and do some research? And then you can check whether their general approach and thought patterns match yours. Then the next time round, you could ask them to create a draft. And then you're going to vet the draft and you're going to rejig it a little bit so it's just how you like it. And then essentially over time, you move from there to allowing them to write the draft, maybe a little bit of tweak. Then you get to the point where they schedule it and you check it, and then they schedule it and you just look at it after it's gone out. So over time, you can actually delegate that piece of work without it feeling like too big a step all in one go. So there are 4 key steps to think about when you're on the road to releasing control and becoming a beacon of delegation. The first is to define the task very clearly. And it sounds silly, but this is so often where things go wrong, because you assume that somebody else thinks the same way you do. You assume that they understand certain things that perhaps they don't. They might assume certain things about your expectations. So get rid of any degree of assumption and map out super clearly exactly what the task is. The second step is to make sure that you agree some very clear deadlines and standards. So you're agreeing things like quality, quantity and standards, those absolute deliverables, so that there can't be any misunderstandings. But also step 3 is building in some contingency for amends, for changes or anything like that. So if, for instance, something needs to be done by the end of the month, don't ask somebody to deliver it to you by the end of the month, because those are the occasions when it comes back, it's not quite right, and you say, haven't got time to give it them back, I'll sort it out myself, and next time you don't delegate it. So build in some contingency time so that they come back to you by the 3rd week of the month, for instance, and then if there are changes, if there's things to be learned, things to be developed, you've still got time between the two of you to get all of that sorted before the month end deadline. And then the 4th step is just to gradually relinquish the elements of control. So as we talked about, just get them to do an initial piece of research, then give them a bit more responsibility, and gradually a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So you don't have to leap in all at once, but you do have to really develop the art of delegating to a team, delegating to outsourced suppliers if you want to grow your business and you want that team to be in place to step up, take responsibility, really support you and allow you to work on your strengths instead of getting sucked in to the things that you don't need to be obsessed with all the detail about. If you need more support with this, head over to my website tailory.co.uk and get in touch with me.